Here's the Avata 2, and if you're excited about flying this drone, this is where you start. This is your beginner's guide to the Avata 2. This drone features a lot of cool new stuff. A new battery, a new design, a brand new camera, a new controller that can help you do some cool tricks, and then also new goggles with a pass-through mode. All right, before we get to the exciting part, which is, well, flying the drone, let's go ahead and talk about the battery, because I'm gonna want you to charge the batteries as we're talking so that when you're ready to go fly, the batteries are ready. If you bought the Fly More combo, you're gonna get 3 of these batteries with this little box right here. Otherwise, you'll have only 1 of these batteries, which is fine. The battery's a little bit different. If you're used to the Avata, they're gonna be a little bit smaller, maybe skinnier and taller, let's put it this way. They also go all the way into the back of the drone. We'll get to that in a second. Now, in order to charge these batteries, you have a USB-C port right here. You're going to plug in any of the chargers that you have. If you have like an iPad charger, an iPhone charger, whatever it is, just plug it in here. But DJI recommends at least 30 watts for the charger. They also have the fast charging 65 watts that came in with the Air 3, if I remember correctly, and then also the Mavic 3. We have a couple of these. We charge them. They're very fast. They're going to charge very quickly, top them off, and then you'll be ready to go. This is cool. Just like the Air 3, this has the ability to charge a battery that is currently not charged by using what's left over in each of the batteries. Let me explain. How many times do you go and you fly, you come back and you have maybe 1 bar left because you're keeping it safe or the drone auto landed, but there's still a little bit of battery left in here. Well, you can use that to top off the rest of the battery. So what it's going to do is this charger is going to look at the most charged battery and it's going to use the power from the other 2 to finish it up and top it off. And the way that you do this is you simply push and hold right here. Don't double tap and hold, just push and hold. It's going to go into that mode and then it's going to start to send and charge the batteries. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how we're going to put it in the drone in itself. So take the battery out. By the way, you have to squeeze to get that battery out right here. Otherwise, it's kind of stuck in. So squeeze on the edges right here, take the battery out, and then, very simple, put it in. Put these little squeezies, whatever you want to call these right here, towards the top. Slide it in, make sure it clicks. Click, the battery is in. It's really that simple. To take it out, you have to squeeze on the side. Now, the beauty of this compared to the older design, the DJI FPV and the DJI Avata original version 1, is that the battery is less likely to come out during a crash, which means that you can actually go and find where the drone is when it crashes, as opposed to the battery ejecting, the drone turning off, and then you can never find it. So very simple. To turn on the drone, double tap and hold. We're not going to do that just yet, but double tap and hold. That's the typical DJI setup to power on the drone. Now, I know you want to get to the drone and I know you want to fly it, but first off, we have to talk about how to turn on the controller. This right here is the magic controller. I call it the Harry Potter one. You can call it the thermometer, whatever you want to call it. But this is a new model, slightly different design than the old one if you've seen the old one. But you're gonna have to charge this. So USB plug right here at the bottom, put it on the charger. It doesn't take very long. And right here at the top, you have the percentage that it is charged, just like we had on the battery. The power button is right here. Double tap and hold, just like every other device. And then you notice there's a trigger where you can put your finger right in the middle of it. So that's going to allow you to go backwards by pushing up on the controller. That's going to allow you to control the drone backwards, and then by pushing forward like this and give it some gas, just like if you're used to maybe those RC cars. It's kind of the same idea right here. This is cool because it's a new way of flying, and I want to show you how it works because, well, this is a beginner's video and I think this might be the easiest way to actually fly the drone. This is going to be pretty intuitive. Why? Because this actually acts as the way you're going to fly the drone. If you want to fly the drone and tilt it, you're going to tilt it. If you want to yaw the drone, you're going to yaw it. And then if you want to go forward, well, you're going to give it some gas right here. Very, very intuitive. There will be a dot inside of the goggles when you look at them, and this is how you're going to control the drone. Now, there's a few more buttons on here. We have a big red button. This is the button that we're going to use to spool the motors and also to take off and then also to land. Also at the top here is a 4D button. I didn't say 5D because it actually doesn't click, but you can go up, down, left, and right. This will allow you to control the drone as it's hovering. If you want to climb up, simply push this up. If you want to go down, push this down and go sideways sideways. So just an easy way to control the drone at very low speed to put it in a position, maybe for landing. This is very useful. This is also fairly new. And then we have a mode button right here, which is going to allow you to switch between sport mode and normal mode, and then also to hit RTH, return to home. And then lastly, there's a wheel on the side here that also clicks. That wheel is going to let you control the gimbal up and down. And then by doing a combination of clicks, I'll show you later, well, you can do a couple things. Okay, your batteries are charged, controller is charged. Time to turn on the drone, right? Well, not quite yet. Let's go ahead and talk about the goggles. These are important because this is where you're going to look at the footage while you fly. These will be on your face as you fly. And you can see, well, there's a little bit of a stretch right here. And in the back of this, we can loosen or tighten the grip behind your head as you put them on. We also have antennas right here, which you're going to need to have up. You can fold them in order to travel with them and pack them. In the front here, be careful, you have tiny little cameras. Why? Because inside of the goggles, there's a pass-through mode where you'll be able to see what's going on around you by double tapping right here on the side of the goggles, or by double tapping on the side of the wheel with the motion controller. The back of this feels a little bit heavy. There's a good reason. This is where the battery is located. Now, don't look for a USB plug. There's actually not one in here. It's going to be located at the bottom of the goggles. This is where you're going to charge it. Please put these on the charger so that you can have a fresh set as soon as you're ready. At the very top right here, there's something that looks weird. This is where the strap is attached. Well, this is going to rest against your forehead. You might see from some of the footage as I'm taking these off and on, this is where you're going to have a mark. If you wear them for a while, this is where the pressure point is going to be. If you're used to using VR goggles, it's going to be a different feel. These are much, much lighter. I actually like the feel of these. It's not super comfortable, but it's also not uncomfortable at all. I wore them for a while today, and yeah, I really don't have anything bad to say. Now at the bottom here, what you'll see is there's the power button, which is actually very useful. In the past, it used to be on the battery, which in this case would be like right here. This actually doesn't have any ports or any buttons at all. Power on, same as all DJI drones, double tap and hold, you'll be ready to go. Attached to the button on the side here, we have the battery level. At the very top here, you notice the antennas fold for travel, which is neat. And then we have a 5D button, which you'll be able to use in order to select different menus in here inside of the goggles, and then select by clicking. That's the fifth dimension if you want. 5D, 5 dimensions, so up, down, left, and right, and then click. We also have a back button, so if you get into one of the menu and you need to get back out, this is where you would do it. Now you notice as I'm holding these, I'm extra careful about the way that the mirrors on the inside, the screens on the inside, are exposed to the sun. The last thing that you want is to have these, I'm not going to do it, but have them open and looking at the sun. You're going to get burns inside of the screens and they'll be there forever. Don't ask me how I know, because well, we made that mistake in the past. At the bottom here, you have a way to change the width of the screens on the inside of the goggles. This is depending on how wide your eyes are. So you're going to set that up as soon as you put them on. It's going to be pretty obvious. And you can also rotate this to change the diopter in the glasses, which means that if you wear glasses, corrective lenses, then you'll be able to replicate this right inside of the goggles here. So you can fly, well, without using actual goggles. All of these are just sunglasses. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, let's take a look at the aircraft. Starting from, well, the battery, we talked about that. It's already installed. It's right here. Then the propellers. You notice we have a nice ducking all the way around the propellers to, well, protect them from, well, bumps, landing on the ground, landing into walls, right? This is a drone that's going to be fine in confined spaces, possibly. And you notice also only 3 blades in here. We had 5 blades on the Avata 1 if you paid attention. These will come already installed. Comes with 2 little screws right here, which you would be able to unscrew and remove very easily should you need it during maintenance. At the very front of the aircraft, we have a gimbal. Now, this gimbal is not maybe as stabilized as you may have seen in other drones. This one only has one axis of rotation, which is going to be up and down right here. It doesn't stabilize on the yaw movement, and it also doesn't stabilize on the rotation movement. That's all done inside right here of the drone digitally. At the bottom here, we have 2 little sensors that you want to make sure are clean. This is going to help us maintain altitude at very low altitude. And then new to this kind of drone, in the back here, we have 2 sensors for motion. And then here on the side, Thank you, DJI. They moved the SD card slot to be at the bottom, also with the USB port if you needed to transfer data. Note that you cannot charge the drone from this USB port just to transfer data. In the old one, in the original Avata, you had to fish in between the duct right here, in between the propellers to get that SD card out. Very, very bad design. Before we get started, there are a couple settings that we need to change in the goggles. So let's get to it right here. The beauty of using the Magic controller here is that, look, I have an actual controller that shows up on the screen. If you've ever used VR goggles, this is very similar to the VR effect. You'll notice as I go towards the top, I have a setting right here. To the left, I have a setting. To the bottom, I have a setting. The top menu here is actually just very simple settings that are not too important for the flight. But here we have a couple things we need to check. It says remote ID functionality, normal, perfect. And we're gonna go to settings and safety. Obviously safety is important, but you need to set your maximum altitude right here. Right now it's at 394. We are flying in an area that is unrestricted, aka we can fly up to 400 feet. If you are in an area where maybe you get lens approval to 200 feet, then you can click on here and then you'll be able to change them. Now the beauty, again, because I'm using the Magic Wand right here, I'm able to select anything I want. If you're not using that, at the very top of your controller, there is a 5D button and you'll be able to go down or go up and be able to change it. And by pushing on the button in itself, you can select. It's a 5D button in this case. Maximum flight distance, no limit. This is RTH altitude, that's a return to home. I recommend that you pick the highest altitude of the highest obstacle near you and then add maybe like another 50 feet on top just to be safe, okay? And then from here, update home point. This should have already been updated when you started the drone, and make sure that everything is normal. If this is your first time flying, I want you to go back to the settings section and then go to control. And then I want you to change the unit to whatever you're comfortable with. We're using Imperial here, but you can use the real metric system if you want to, or kilometers if that's what you want as well. If you just turn on the goggles, the beginner's mode here is going to be turned on. This is where you would turn it off. The beginner's mode right here is going to allow you to fly the drone at a very low speed with a very, very little chance of crashing it. When you're ready, just go ahead and unclick this. Now, I do need to make a mention of how you click things with this controller. And the way that you do it is, if you look on the controller right here, there's a tiny little detent right here where you barely have any tension on the controller. This is how you select, okay? So I can go right here. I don't have to press full, like all the way in like this. I can simply go right here and then just a tiny little click, and it is going to get me into those controls. Now, as far as the main settings, this is all we have. I'm going to show you the very top menu here real quick, just so you understand what it does. The recording here is where you record to the goggles or to the card or to both. There is a way to set up each of the settings. There's a way to turn on head tracking, which if selected while you're in flight, the camera and the drone is going to move in the direction where your head is moving. And then there's an easy Acro mode, which we'll also get to. So not a whole lot of very important things up here. Just I wanted to mention it before we take off. Now, last step before you start flying, let's do a pre-flight inspection, not only of the drone, but also of the environment. So always start with the weather. And the best way to check the weather, people say, what app should you use for the weather? Your own eyes. You're here, you're on site, you're gonna be looking outside. Very high clouds right here, cirrus clouds, there's really nothing, and which is often the case in Arizona. We know we're not going to be too close to clouds. We know the visibility is good. Now, if you need to check an app, then go ahead and do that before you go for your flight. But in this case, I can see that the wind is okay as well. There's no ripples on the lake. The lake behind us is actually almost completely flat. So next thing is going to be the location where we're going to fly. We know this location, we've flown here before, but I'm going to do a lens request because this area is in a lens approved airspace. So from my phone, I'm going to go to this app called Air Aware, created by Aloft in partnership with Pilot Institute. We're going to check to make sure that, well, we're in the right airspace and that we can actually get approval. So once you get in here, you notice right away, it tells me my location. We are by Watson Lake here in Prescott, Arizona, and it says controlled airspace. And when I go down a little bit more, it says permissible altitude for authorization, 400 feet. And then it says get lens. We're south of the airport right now, and there's a bunch of different grids. So depending on the place where you fly, you'll be seeing different numbers. Here, we are allowed to fly up to 400 feet. So I'm going to get lens. Lens is the FAA's set up in order to get immediate approval to fly in the airspace. So click on Get Lance, and that's going to take you right now to an app called Air Control. Now, at the time of recording, you cannot get Lance approval directly into the Air Aware app, so you have to use Air Control still, but probably by the time you see this, it will be available. Anyways, you see we're in a 400-foot grid. I'm going to click on Lance, and I'm going to request for a commercial flight. Right now, we're doing a commercial flight because we're doing it for Pilot Institute. In your flight, if you're doing for recreational purposes, you're going to click recreational. And then as I zoom in, you notice I can click and grab. So it's like hit and grab and move the corners of where we're going to be flying today. We're not going to be flying that far, maybe a little bit over the lake right here. So I'm going to keep this approval going, and I'm going to slide all the way to 400 feet. This is where we're going to be. And then click next. How long? For now, until the next 2 hours. And then it comes back and says eligible for auto approval. We're in class Delta airspace for Prescott. We're good for the next 2 hours. I'm going to click next one more time. You can see your information right here with your phone number. This is the official approval for your flight. And you're going to click agree and submit. It's going to wait a few seconds. And then here it is. You notice I'm getting a text at the same time that says request approved right here. And we're good to go. So I'm going to close the phone for right now. We've got airspace approval. We have weather approval-ish. Now we got to find the right spot to fly. Now, if you look around me, there's not a whole lot of obstacles. Behind us here, there's a red building that's not super tall, so that's going to be fine. There's a bunch of trees all around. There's a few people around. There's an area here where I know there's a lot of kids that are playing right now, so I'm not going to go fly in that area. And there's a trail right here with a few people that are walking, so I'm going to keep and be aware of that as I fly. And then everything else looks pretty good. There's plenty of room for us to land. We have our little landing spot right here. If you have one of these, it's always a good idea, especially look where we're flying. There's a lot of dust. There's a lot of tiny little rocks. Always good to have a landing spot that's nice and clean. Next, we're gonna get to the drone in itself. The drone right now doesn't have a battery. I took it out of the bag. It has the protection in the front, so I'm gonna take that off. Put the drone down, and then we're gonna take a battery. Now you notice there's a little opening right here, which is gonna be where the battery is gonna go. So the battery goes like this. It should slide nicely. Click, you heard that click. The battery is in. I'm gonna take my goggles out. Again, be careful with the sun. So if you put them down this way, facing the screens facing down so the sun doesn't hit them. And today we're gonna be flying with this controller because I believe a lot of beginners are going to be using this. This is a beginner's guide. Before you take off, if you're going to be doing videos, you might want to put an ND filter on the camera. Now the ND filters are pretty easy to install. I'm going to put an ND16 on this drone right now because I believe this is going to be the right one. We'll put a link to this video right here that explains how ND filters are selected, which one you should pick. It's a bit of math, but ND16 should do just fine. So I'm going to put it on top of our drone right here. Now you might be wondering, what does an ND filter do? It's going to remove some of the lights if you want to do some filming, which we are going to be doing. I'm going to do a very, very gentle swipe right here because I have some fingerprints. Drone is ready, goggles are ready, controller is ready, area is ready. We have lens approval. Let's go ahead and do the flight. So I would power on the drone first, double tap and hold in the back, double tap and hold. You can see the propellers moving, that little beep. I'm going to do double tap and hold on my controller. Tap, tap, there you go. You hear the beep, that's a good sign. And then my goggles, same thing, double tap and hold. There you go. Now I'm going to put the goggles on. Make sure, again, you're not exposing them to the sun. Make sure that the antennas are up so that you can access the 5D button right here. Now, as I log in, I'm going to adjust my diopters right here. Make sure they are set on 0 on both sides. There you go. And then the right width. Now, remember, I can double tap on the side, and then now I have pass through so I can see my surrounding, and then I can see my drone right here. I can also see my controller. So I'm going to grab my controller and I'm going to get up, step away from this right here. Now I can see, okay, I'm going to go. I like to rest when I'm flying FPV, so I'm going to go to this. It's kind of weird to walk with the pass-through on, but that way I have something to kind of hold me. Usually I would sit on a chair, but right now we don't have to. So I'm going to go back to the drone view, double tap again. And then now, remember, my controller also acts as a magic wand that I can use on the screen. So as I'm controlling the screen right here, I can go to the different menus. I can go to the status, We're gonna go here real quick, remote ID functionality normal, that's good. And we're gonna go to our settings one more time and make sure that on the safety side, maximum flight altitude of 1,300 feet, I'm gonna bring that down to 394. And then maximum flight distance, no limit, that's fine. RTH altitude of 262, that's fine. Remember, there's not a whole lot of stuff around me right now. I'm gonna make sure here that my calibrations are good. Yeah, all 4 of them are normal. ESC beeping, I don't need to do that, except if I lose the drone, then this is gonna help us find it. Actually, you hear this. That's if you lose the drone, you wanna make it beep. And then advanced settings in here, aircraft signal lost, hover. I'm glad I came in here because I wanted to return to home if we lose the signal. We can go back. That's all the settings that I want to mess with at the moment. So we're good to go. I'm going to go back into the main area here. And then if we wanted to check our camera settings here, I see that I can do photo or video. Right now we are set to white balance auto. I'm going to change ours to be at 5600. That's usually how we shoot. And then everything else I'm going to leave on auto right now because I don't want to worry about it. This is just our first flight. So we're ready. On the controller in itself, on the red button here, I'm going to double tap. Tap, tap. It's bringing me to this mode. It says flight safety tips, what kind of mode you want to be in. Normal mode is recommended. That's the one we're going to use. Double tap on the red button to take off. And then press and hold on the red button to take off finally. There you go, the drone is up in the air. Now, what do we do from here? You will notice that I have a dot on the screen. This is where the drone is oriented. And notice what happens as I bank my controller to the left and to the right. The drone yaws. It doesn't bank, it actually yaws. And if I press all the way in, give it some gas, the drone is gonna go in the direction of where the dot is. I just increased the pitch on my Magic controller, the drone went up. And then if I pitch down, then the drone is gonna go down on the other side right here. So I can see clearly that there's no one on the path, so I'm gonna give it a little bit more gas, and now it goes a lot faster. So now you can bank left and right using the stick to go in one direction or the other and do exactly what you wanna do with this drone. So you can fly crazy, you can go back up, so pitching up right now with my controller, I can bank to the left, bank to the right, and the aircraft is just gonna go in the direction that I want it. Now, if I want to stop, let go of the throttle, the dot disappears, and then now the drone is no longer moving. If I wanted to go backwards, I'm going to use this right here, and I'm going to go up with it. And now the drone is going, now it's rotating at the same time. Now it's going backwards. Not super fast, but it is going backwards, okay? It's kind of very subtle. Now right here, I have a 4D button on the controller. And what I can do with it is I can do 2 things. I can climb by pushing up on it, and I can descend. And this is going to be very useful if I want to basically land on the specific spot right here. Then I can do that by going up or going down. Very small, intricate changes. I can also go to the right. So the drone is now flying sideways to the right or to the left. And this is all from me controlling the drone. So small controls that you can do using just the 4D button right here. And remember again, depending on how I orient the drone, I can make it yaw by simply pressing a tiny little bit on the trigger and then moving the controller to the right, the drone is going to yaw in place. So once you're comfortable, I want to show you a cool little trick where you can do some flips, sideways flip, forward flip, 180 degree turn using just this little controller. And the cool thing is it's all done in the goggles and with the controller. So I'm going to go put those on. As you get your goggles situated, you can use the controller here to go to the top menu, and you can go right here to Easy Acro. And when you click on it, it turns yellow, which means that the Easy Acro is all set. And as I'm in this area, now you can see clearly on the left side, it says slide, 180 degree, drift, and flip. I'm gonna start with the flip because this is a nice one. I can go forward, and then I can push on the 4D controller here. I can push forward, and the drone does a forward flip. I can go backwards. I can go sideways, and sideways the other direction. And there you go, you can combine that with flying along. So forward flip, there you go as the drone flies. I can go here in the turn, side flip, do it again, come back here, side flip, there you go. So you can have a ton of fun doing this. Now there's another function. I'm gonna use the left little scrolly wheel here to go to 180 degree drift. Now I'm gonna move the 4D button sideways. and now the drone flips 180 degrees. And as I'm holding the throttle, the drone keeps going backwards. I'm gonna do it one more time just to show you. I'm gonna bank right here, and I'm gonna hit the side button, 180 degree, and boom, here it is. Now, what would you do this? Well, this is pretty cool if you fly maybe over a cool tree, like this tree right here. Fly over, flip over, and there it is again. You can see it immediately. So again, this tree right here, and bam, swap, there it is, right on top of it. That was actually really cool on this one. Play with it, play with these two. Now we're gonna come back for our landing. So I'm gonna go forward, get back close to us, right here. I'm gonna look down, there you go. I can see that the drone is getting pretty close to the landing spot. I think I'm right on top of the controller now. You know what else I can do? I can actually use the double tap on the side of my goggles here to switch it, or I can remove the goggles completely. If I do this, move the goggles up a little bit, now I have a look at my drone, and I can basically use the down button right here to land close to my landing spot if possible. Let me go back a little bit. It's not super easy to do, by the way, using this controller, so you have to be a little bit creative. There you go. And then push down on the 5D button, and there you go. Here comes the drone landing. That's it. That was the first flight. Super simple. Now this is with this controller. We can also do the same thing using the regular controller. As you get more comfortable flying, you probably want to invest in one of these. Granted, this is an additional purchase, but this is the traditional way of flying FPV. The main difference here is that you're not going to be using motion in the motion controller. You're going to be using these sticks to take off and land. To me, if you want to move up in the world of drones, if this is your first drone and you plan on getting other drones in the future, get one of these and get used to all the controllers in here. If you want to switch to full FPV mode, then you're going to have to change the responsiveness of this stick right here on the left stick. And the way that you do this is you're going to do it from the back right here. You have to take this pouch out. There's a little arrow and you can remove this. You can't really remove it, but you can get it out of the way. And then there's an F2 and an F1. Start with F2. Use the Allen wrench that was provided. Go inside the F2. There's a tiny little screw and screw in. And then see what happens now. You see how loose this thing is? Well, now we have to add a little bit of resistance. Go to F1 and again, clockwise. And then see what it does for you. So now, see when I move, the stick doesn't move anymore, but it also stays in position wherever I want it to be in position. So that's more FPV. Don't do that on the right side. The right side needs to come back to neutral, but you can also change the sensitivity of it right here. Worthy investment, in my opinion, if you want to move further than that. But otherwise, this is it. This is the drone right here. Now, if you have any questions about this drone, make sure you leave them in the comments and we'll do our best to answer them. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.